Hi, I'm Lorraine, and I've been in education for over 30 years in Trinidad and Tobago. There's a lot I've learnt as a teacher, and one of the big issues that we all run into is the teaching of reading. It is a major concern that many people have, many parents have, and it's understandable. Um, I think I think I've learnt enough that I could truly give support and help to parents when helping young ones learn to read. But there's some issues, there's some things that we notice when children are learning to read, and we can eliminate. One of the things that I have noticed as children learn to read is, and particularly in our schools today, there's a lot of children who are very phonics dependent. What does that mean? Well, phonics is the sounds of letters and how they blend to make words. And it has become the approach that we take in our schools, teaching of the phonics. Now, phonics is important, of course, but are we teaching with so much phonics in our system, our approach to teaching and reading becomes so phonics dependent that our children only read using phonics? There was a mother who told me once, my son, everything he wants to sound out, because he says that Miss says I have to sound out everything. And the mummy says, it is so frustrating now because there are words I know he knows just like that, but he stops and sounds out every single word, even the words he already knows. And therefore he's not fluent, he's not understanding what he's reading, and he gets fed up, tired, and frustrated. So he has become so dependent on the letter sounds that he begins to think that that's what reading is. But at least he knows his phonics. Here's another story. There was a child who I was helping to assess in his reading ability. This child was another extreme where nobody taught him how to read properly. He was 8 years old at the time, and I asked him to read a very simple passage. The reading age was a 5-year reading age passage. The poor soul stood up and spelt every single word. And then I made him pause after a while when I realized he was just spelling the words, even though I'd asked him to read the passage. And then he looked at me with a proud, confident smile. My heart broke. He didn't understand even the concept of reading. But to be fair, that was an extreme situation, but not a unique situation. You see, that was a few years ago, before phonics really took full helm in our schools. So the reading level or the reading approach at one time in our school system totally ignored phonics, the letter sounds. Now, perhaps, I believe, we've gone the next extreme, where in some schools, some classes, we've become too phonics dependent. The English language is a blend. We've got lots of words that you can sound out. But unlike perhaps the Spanish language, where it's more phonics, letter sound dependent, the English language has a host of words that came from all over the place, over history and over time, that do not lead very well to this use of phonics. And therefore, a quick example is the word said. If you were to pronounce it phonetically, you will not end up with said. If you spelt the word said, you'll end up with SED. Therefore, that word is not a purely letter sound word. And if we keep teaching our children using so much dependency on phonics, we're going to stifle their learning, cause frustration, lack of comprehension. There's a whole other set of issues. And so people will be like, well, then how do I approach teaching? How do I help my child at home? The teacher, how do I balance it smoothly? I'm putting a plug in right here. I have teaching sessions called How to Teach Reading via Zoom. We have one coming up this Thursday. You could look at the description below to see when. And there'll be others coming up. But there's simple strategies. You see, many people will say, well, reading for me was easy. Why is it so hard for my child? One of the reasons is reading actually is not natural. Speaking is natural. Learning to speak, that is a natural thing. Babies begin to babble from birth. Reading is actually created by humans. Therefore, it's not as natural as we think. However, if we use the right strategies, we can make it feel more comfortable, feel more like the strategies of learning to speak. So we should mirror some of those habits and strategies. There's lots of little mirroring techniques that I've discovered along the way that I could help and share with you. And as I go through these podcasts, I will share some of these points with you over time. And not just in reading, just general approach to teaching. There are lots of other concerns we might have when it comes to educating, not just little ones, right through the school system. Here's another concern that you might have. The fact that our child might be bored in school. You might have a child who's a very strong student and the class seems to just hold them back. Mummy, I'm bored, I'm frustrated. And a bright child might actually begin to give trouble in class and give the impression that they don't know. When they do, they're just fed up and bored. They've lost interest, they've zoned out. Then we've got some children who are giving trouble because they just don't know the work. There's a school I'm working with right now in the secondary school system. And there's a particular student whose reading level reads the child, although being in the early teens, maybe 12 or 13 years old, early teens, this particular child gives trouble whenever he's in school. Absolute trouble in school. Whenever he does come to school, it's only for him to turn around and get suspended again. And then back in school, give some trouble, turn around, another suspension. He has other habits that I was told, such as vaping. But when he's in school, plays around. When his reading age, when we assessed his reading age, he reads at the age level of a 6-year-old. So the conclusion can be made that one of the main reasons he gives trouble in school is because he has an ego. He doesn't want to look stupid. So, hey, just play around, be the class clown, give some trouble. It's a survival strategy he has. How did he reach secondary school with a reading age of an infant? Well, there are strategies and habits that might be happening in the classroom that cause that. Another thing could be absenteeism. But once a child is in school and still can't read, if the child has no other learning difficulties, no developmental issues, and still can't read, and that is happening, why? What can be done about it? There are actual habits a class teacher, we as teachers might have, that we don't realize is actually hindering the child's learning, and we don't know it. One of those habits we might have is teaching reading as a whole class. We're keeping them all together, same activities, right through the day. And this isn't just in reading, it could be in language arts, it could be in math. We're doing whole class together all the time. But no set of humans are one brain. But I could tell you why we're teaching the whole class all together, same topics all the time. Because we're trying to follow the curriculum. And we're trying to follow the unit plan that we've created from the curriculum. And it just is easier that way in our own mind as a teacher for our own sanity, because we're humans too. But I'll put it to you, there is a way to follow the curriculum, follow our plans for the day, and still let children work at their own pace and do their own activity relevant to their level. There's a strategy that's I developed called FlexiLearn that I used with my students, and I've shared with other teachers who've used at least aspects of it with their students with some great success. But again, there's a lot to discuss in education, so all of that will come up over time as we go through these sessions, these podcasts. So I really do hope you keep joining in. This is my first like this, and you're going to learn. I hope you're going to see so much benefits from little tidbits that I can share with you. But going back to the reading issue, the couple of examples I gave show that our literacy rate, our literacy level as a population is not where it should be. Now, I was speaking to someone from another country the other day, and she had checked out information on Trinidad. She's into education. And she said, oh, I read that your literacy level is really high, like 98, 99%. And I smiled because if you check some sites, you will see our literacy level put at that high level, 98, 99%. And she asked, well, if your country has such problems and the reading level is not to that level, how come the websites have it? And there's a simple explanation as to why the data on some websites is inaccurate and shows us at a very high literacy rate when in fact we're not. And it's based on this basic concept of the percentage of children who have access to primary level education. And the children in our country who have access to primary school education is essentially 100% access. Give or take immigration issues. And even then, I think that may have been resolved. So children have access to education, even preschool education. So from the age of 3, you can have access to education in Trinidad and Tobago. And based on that premise, the assumption is made, well, if you have access to education, then you have enough time to learn how to read. Conceptually, that's accurate. In practice, it doesn't happen. The question is why? All things being equal, of course, I'm not talking about children who have severe learning problems. That is a different issue. I'm talking about children who, all things being equal, have an ability to learn, they can speak, and they attend school. If those things are being covered, why is a child still not learning to read? Again, it's strategies that we're implementing that need to be tweaked slightly, I find, that go a long way. When I tweaked some of my strategies, I was amazed with the results I saw. So I did not ignore phonics, but I did not focus in on it alone. I recognized this level of the books, the size of the books, the fact that every child cannot move at the same pace. They may all be exposed to a certain skill in reading at the same time, but we cannot expect them all to learn it or grasp it at the same time. We all need what I like to call cooking time. All those things will be raised over time and explored in more detail. But have no fear. There are strategies. Join the Zoom session. There's one coming up 25th of April. Join it. I know you'll enjoy it. But there's a lot more to be shared. I'm excited about what I can share with you regarding the teaching of reading, regarding teaching on a whole. So spread the word. This is brand new. And if you have any questions about teaching of reading, teaching young ones, getting your own child excited about learning, how to even interact better with your class teacher if you have concerns, how as a teacher can you find ways to bond better with your parents, throw out your questions. If I can help, I'll share what I know. If I'm not sure, I'll do some research for you. And I'd love to see how we can have an open, honest discussion about education to the benefit of who? Our children. Looking forward to sharing more with you.